All right, this will be the last video for the fall 2015 semester, dealing with MKT 495 marketing management. In this video, I'm going to discuss the last two things that you need to turn in. This is after all 10 short papers have been turned in. The final version of the marketing plan is all that you have left. Please remember back when we talked about at the very beginning of the semester, when I talked to you about that there's more in a marketing plan than just these 10 sections. And some of the sections we're not going to include because it's pretty much impossible for students to get the information and that sort of thing. But as we finish, I do want you to realize there is a little bit more to a marketing plan than what you've done. Financial information, pro formas, things like that, what we expect the product to do in the future, how much income return do we expect with this product, and then the control mechanisms, meaning how are we going to keep tabs on whether this plan is working or not. If it's not, what do we go back and change? Those kinds of things are not included in your marketing plan, but would be in a marketing plan that you might be asked to put together for a company once you're out working full time. So in this particular video, I'm going to cover two things. It's the two documents that are available to you on Blackboard under the short paper outlines. If you look under there, there's one called short paper cover page, and then the other is called the final version notes. The short paper cover page. In the past, when I've taught this course as a live lecture class, students turn in a paper hard copy for each of their short papers, and I keep those, I grade them, and give them back to them. At the end of the semester, I want them to give them all back to me. Well, you've turned in digital copies, and I've kept a copy of that graded short paper, so there's no need for you to turn in any short papers to me, 1 through 10. No need for you to be turning anything like that in. However, I do want you to complete the short paper cover page. It says Marketing Management Short Paper Grades at the top of it. And it lists each of the short papers. And with each one of these short papers, it has a blank out to the right-hand side of it for a grade. Please enter the grade that you earned on each of those short papers. Then, where it asks for signature, just simply print your name, and then date it, and then print your name again where it says printed name. And when you submit that to me, with you printing your name at the bottom, that is your digital signature, and by submitting it to me, you are saying this is my signature. Basically just shows me that you know what you made on each one of the short papers, and it shows you what you made on each one of the short papers. So there is no confusion or argument or anything like that. Everyone knows, even when Blackboard this page is no longer available to anyone, we still have a document showing what the grades are, and that you acknowledge those were your grades, and I acknowledge those were your grades by accepting that grade sheet with no comment. With anything like that, I do need that document. You can turn that in anytime you like. Once you have all 10 of your short papers graded, you've turned them in, and I've returned them to you graded. The other thing that you will be turning in is your final version of the marketing plan. As you've seen, the entire course is built on the writing of a marketing plan. I've divided what you are required to write into 10 sections. You've written a short paper for each one of those sections. Now what I want you to do is to pull those 10 short papers together. I've given some notes here, an outline of what the final version should entail. This is due December the 7th. That's Monday, finals week. You can turn this in early. You can turn it in before Thanksgiving if you wish. Please do not turn this in until you have turned in all your short papers. They have been graded and returned to you. Once that occurs, then you can turn in your final version. I do not want a final version from anyone until all short papers are turned in all 10 of your short papers were turned in, all 10 of them were graded and returned back to you. Then turn in your cover page, and then turn in your the cover page, the grade sheet for all your short papers, and then turn in your final version. Okay, if you want to turn those in at the same time, that's perfectly okay. I will not grade your final version until I get that cover page for the graded short papers. Your all 10 grades listed, and you giving me a digital signature by simply typing your name at the bottom. One other note here, with the final marketing plan outline, please remember that this is an outline for a traditional lecture class where students have been turning in hard copies. So when I make changes to these, or you'll see that some of these may not apply to you as far as that goes. Looking at the outline, what I'm going to try to do is to have you turn this in just as you have with all the other short papers. Turn it in as a Word document and email, put it as an attachment to an email, and email your final version to me. My hope is that the email system that you use, the GEM system that I use here, that will be able to handle the attached document, that none of the documents will be too large for the email system to handle. If for some reason the first one or two of the final versions of the marketing plan are too large, or the email systems cannot handle it, or digital versions aren't going to happen this semester, what I will do is, once I find that out, and it'll be with the first or two of the final versions someone tries to turn in, once I find that out, I will send out an email to everyone. I will also post an announcement on Blackboard. So you'll get emails and announcements made that a hard copy will need to be turned in. Basically what this means is that you will print off your final version of the marketing plan, bind it in some way, and then get it to me. You can drop it by if you want to. I have no problem with that. You can drop it by. If you come by during business hours and I'm not in my office to drop it off, you can always go to the dean's office or the management marketing departmental offices to drop those off. The dean's office is Merrill 100, or you can go into the management marketing departmental office, which is 216 Merrill building. So go to one of those two offices and drop it off if I'm not in. Physically turn in a hard copy. If this is not possible, if you are out of town and you are taking this online course because you are out of town, then you will need to mail me your final version. I will give a couple of days extra for the mailing of the document, but it will need to be postmarked by December the 7th, completed, printed, bound, put in an envelope, and postage paid by December the 7th. And when that happens, I will send you with the announcements and emails about the new procedure, and explaining that, I'll give you a mailing address to send it to. When you send it to that mailing address, please note that grades will be delayed in posting those. If you send it regular mail, it is postmarked by the 7th, but you send it regular mail, and it takes over a week to get to me. In some instances, you may have to receive an incomplete for the class, only because I cannot get it graded in time. I do not want you to incur any great expense in mailing the document to me. So overnight shipment is fine, but if you don't want to pay for that, you can always pay for a 2-day shipment or something like that. It's significantly less. So I apologize now if we have to go to that process. I hope we do not. I hope everything can be turned in digitally. Okay. So let's look at the final marketing plan, final version outline. I'm only going to grade 2 things. And this is all I ever grade. Your grade will be out of 100. So that means that you've had 300 points with your short papers. 10 papers at 30 points each, that's 300 points. Then you have this 100 point final version. So this is an easy 100 points for you compared to what you've done up to this point. I only grade two things. Number one, the most important, were improvements made from the short papers to the final version? That's one of the questions I ask myself when I'm grading your papers, your final versions. Did you make improvements? Did you correct spelling? Did you correct sentence structure, paragraph structure? Sections that were left out, were they added in? These sorts of things. If these changes were made, if things were requested, they were added in, that's what I'm looking for. Now, am I expecting you to make every single change that I suggested? No. Sometimes the way you have it is the way you want it, and that is perfectly okay. I am offering suggestions on how I would improve the short papers. Now, if it is a misspelled word, an incomplete sentence, run-on sentences, improper paragraph structure, those corrections have to be made. If you do not make those corrections, then the effort you put forth in providing this last version will be matched by my effort in grading. It will not take me long to grade it because there will not be any improvements from the short papers to the final version. If you're not going to make spelling corrections, sentence structure corrections, etc. Those have to be made. But things like if I ask a question about you left something out, if you feel like it does not apply, then you leave it out. You don't have to add that section. Most of the time when I offer a suggestion about content, I end it with question marks or something like that. I'm asking the question, does this need to be here? Okay. So I'm going to look at first at was there an improvement from the short papers to the final papers. Then I will look at to see if it is a professional document. Now, if you all have to end up turning in the hard copies, then that's going to be easy to do. With the digital copies, you will need to put it in Word form and make sure that everything that you would want me to see is presented the way you want it in the Word document. Then attach it. The formatting and that sort of thing should not be an issue. Okay, just attach it as a Word doc, and all the formatting should stay the same and should look right. I will be looking to see are page numbers there, are they correct, etc. Does the section headings appear correctly with the sections? Are line spacing even and consistent? That's part of being a professional document. Also, all illustrations and pics, when they can be, need to be in color. No black and white and things like that. If a color pic is available. So those are the two things that I'll be grading your final version on. If you have to turn in a hard copy, it needs to be bound in some way. But if not, if the digital submissions work, then that does not apply. The next must statement does apply. Must have a cover page with at least the student's name and the name of the product. However, if you want to add more to it, like cover graphics, etc., that makes it even better. But the first thing I should see in the document should be, whether it's a hard copy or a digital copy, should be a cover page of some kind with the product name and the student name on there. You do not have to put student number. In fact, I would advise you not to put a student number on there. Name is sufficient with the product name. Okay, so it has to have a cover page. Then it must also have a table of contents. So you create, once you make improvements to the short papers, then you'll create a cover page, then you'll create a table of contents. A table of contents will require you to add page numbers. If you don't have page numbers, there's no way of the table of contents helping the reader in any way. If I'm requesting a table of contents, that means I'm requesting page numbers. Okay, so you'll have your headings and subheadings listed in the table of contents, and then to the side of that or off to the right of the heading and subheadings, you'll have the page numbers that those can be found on, where those start. You'll need to connect the heading to the page number in the table of contents in some way. In a lot of books and things like that, you'll see dots. Excuse me, you'll see dots connecting the heading to the page number. Just helps the reader to see. Sometimes there's shading. Every other line is shaded. to aid the reader in seeing where this section begins. Okay, so make sure that you not only have page numbers, but they're connected with the headings that they apply to, and that it also is there. It's easy for the consumer to read, the reader to read, and that the page numbers are correct. Make sure that you're putting correct page numbers in there. So this table of contents will be the last thing that you will put in there. I suggest that you put headings. So I know you're going to have at least 10 things listed because you had 10 short papers. So I know there's at least 10 headings or table of contents items. I would think there'd be even more than that when you start adding in subheadings. And so what I see is if you have a heading like the very first paper, product introduction is what you might call that. And then you have subheadings of product description, product history, other products. I would single space all of that under the heading and subheadings, then double space to go to your second major section of the marketing plan, which would be mission statement, goals, and objectives. So double space between them, but single space if you're using subheadings in there. One other thing dealing with the table of contents and the cover page, note that I've said the name page numbers over and over and over again. Typically, the cover page and the table of contents do not have page numbers. These are not page numbers. Page numbers will begin with the executive summary. So you will need to learn in Word how to put page numbers in and how to tell it to begin page numbers on this specific page. So page 1 should be the executive summary. Does everybody understand that? Page 1 of your marketing plan should be the executive summary. Now, the order of the pages. So you have a cover page, then you have a table of contents. Regardless of how many pages it is, it's the second thing I should see. Then at the end of the table of contents, I want you to go to a brand new page, page 1. That will be your executive summary. That is paper number 10. The executive summary will be on a page by itself. It is a summary section, so it is by itself. Then everyone's executive summary should be a page long, so that's page 1 and only page 1. When I turn to page 2, that should be the product description beginning. It should start on a brand new page. It does not come to the end of the product summary. It should start on a brand new page. From that point on, you will include papers 1 through 9. Now, if you want to pull those, like where paper 1 ends in the middle of a page, if you want to pull paper 2 right up to that and start it right at the end and take the second half of that page, that's perfectly okay. If you want to go to a whole new page with each one of the sections, that's fine too. But the table of contents must be a page by itself. The cover page, a page by itself. The table of contents, pages by itself. Nothing else but table of contents items on those pages. Page 1 will be the executive summary, and it'll be a page by itself. After that, papers 1 through 9 can be butted up against or merged together perfectly okay, or they can start on a new page. That's up to you. Okay, so that is the order up to that point. After paper 9, special considerations, that's your last paper. After that, go to a new page and start your reference page. That will be your reference pages, and I've given you help on how to dress those up and make sure they're logical and that they work, but the reference page must be provided. If it's not there, points will be taken off. At least a letter grade will be taken off if there is not a reference page. Very important to include that. Then after that, if you have anything where you've created an appendix, you have lots of tables or graphs or illustrations that you refer to within the body copy, but the illustration is not in the body copy, you can create an appendix section that will be right after the references. Now, on the table of contents, if you want to give the reference pages page numbers, that's fine and listed in the table of contents. If you don't want to give the reference page numbers, that's fine too. But you would still put references there, or resources or works cited or something in the table of contents to show it does come at the end. Same thing with appendices. If you have an appendix, then if you want page numbers with it, that's fine. If you don't want page numbers, that's fine. If you don't have page numbers with your references and your appendices, then it will just be references listed after considerations with no page number out to the side, and then appendices listed after that with no page numbers out to the side in the table of contents. Do not forget to eliminate the mission statement critique in paper number 2. That does not go in the final version of the marketing plan. The next to last must statement on the outline here for the final version must turn in all 10 graded short papers. I've already talked about that. You're not turning in papers. I've already kept a digital copy of that. You will not be getting back a hard copy from me if you turn in the digital copy. If that process works, then you'll just be getting a comment email from me, some comments and an email about your final version, and it'll also list your final version grade. Then you can check Blackboard for all 10 short paper grades and then that final version grade, and then I'll have your final letter grade listed in a column. So that's where you can go to get that. It'll be a very short email message. I'll list things like, here are some items on the cover page or the table of contents or within the marketing plan that I thought could be improved or that I thought looked good, or you did a good job making improvements, basically justifying the grade that you receive. You'll get a grade out of 100, and then it'll be posted in Blackboard. I'll send an email once I have that graded, and I'll grade those probably on Tuesday, December the 8th. Grades will be posted by Wednesday or Thursday of that week, finals week, unless I have to have students turn in hard copies. If that's the case, then you can expect to receive an email from me with my comments a few days after you turn in your hard copies, if that's what is required. But I'm hoping that that's not a process that we have to go through. If you have questions, you can always go to Blackboard and find contact information for me, contact me if you have questions about this final version. You can contact me via email, telephone, or coming by and seeing me. Remember that we do have an entire week out of school for Thanksgiving, so you will not be able to get in touch with me the Friday before Thanksgiving break begins, which will be November 20th. I'll be out November 20th through the 29th for the Thanksgiving break. But if you call me or email anytime before or after that, I'll get back to you within 24 hours.